death squads. There are terrorist commandos that have been brought in by the world specialist in death squads and terrorist commandos. That is the CIA and NATO intelligence. Think of what you know about Argentina. Think of what you know about Central America. Death squads, right? Escadrones de la Muerte and so forth. This is what's actually happening. And when you get these accounts, right, from Al Jazeera or any number of other authorities about children being killed or how many people got killed, ask yourself who's doing the killing. And it turns out that in a very large number of these cases, it's these snipers.
The situation in Syria remains incredibly murky and complex and opaque, as when we last discussed it.
Can you tell us what your perceptions of the situation are?
It began with some armed groups entering inside the country. Armed groups entering inside the country and making big troubles, trying to create Islamic Emirates on the border, first in near Jordan.
As I understand, we have a developing news story at the moment, as it seems that foreign military forces are amassing on the Jordanian border near Syria. So what information can you give us about this story?
This information I received about, it was about foreign or stranger, something like that, moving between some villages, Jordanian villages near the Syrian border. There are many hundreds of troops. They are not Jordanian, not Arab. There's information to say they decided to make something like command center in the village of Al-Husha. It is near Al-Mafraq, about 5 kilometers, not more. You know, Al-Mafraq, it is near about 10 kilometers only from the Syrian border. Now we can say the troops who were moving near the Syrian border are American, not from other nationality.
Syria, unfortunately, we're dealing with a betrayal, a betrayal of good neighborly relations by the main four countries, by Turkey, by Jordan, by the Iraqi Kurdish entity, and also by Lebanon. So we have 4 places where a rebellion has been tried some months ago, and each one of them is peripheral. They're all at the edge of Syria. They're not in the middle, they're at the edge. And it simply shows you, when you look at the map, that this is being done from outside the country.
Yes, there are outside forces. There are armed groups. Some of them are Salafist, Islamic hardliners. Some of them are just mercenaries. Some of them are Lebanese fascists from the Phalange Party coming in from Lebanon, being financed and armed by the U.S. and Israel and Saudi Arabia in attempt to promote civil war and overthrow the government.
You're also on the ground during the war in Libya. In what ways would you draw comparisons to the situation that's happening now in Syria?
So the way to act for NATO is exactly the same. They do exactly the same way to create the file on the United Nations, first with the Geneva Council, on human rights and after in the Security Council. They try to manipulate the Arab League exactly in the same way. In the Libyan case, they organized a big story in front of the Geneva Council for Human Rights. They said there is 5,000 people killed by the security forces. Of course, it's absolutely wrong. There is a lot of people killed, but very few by the security forces. Most of them are killed by these armed groups they put inside the country. But the same armed groups they use in Libya. And now there is some different estimation, but you have at least 600 people coming from Al-Qaeda in Libya who are now in Syria. Especially, you know that the military governor of Tripoli, Libya, is now in Skanderun in Turkey to organize all the fight inside Libya. And the head of what we call the Tripoli Brigade, which was the people from Al-Qaeda now responsible for the security in Tripolitana, they are now, all of them, inside Syria. And a famous Spanish reporter who was first in Libya recognized them here, inside, at the top of this so-called Free Syrian army, but they are not Syrian.
But they've essentially begun to recycle the killers and terrorists who were active in Libya during the summer, the Al-Qaeda and Salafists and Muslim Brotherhood types who have been there. They've been recycled back into Syria. We then went on to visit the home of a guy who got killed, because they invited us, right? The local people said, here, you have to go and talk to this family. And this guy was a taxi driver. Now we get into the ethnic stuff. That he's an Alawite taxi driver, or was. He was in his 20s, and he was kidnapped and murdered by a group of these terrorists. So we got to visit his family, and the family were Assad supporters. They had pictures of Assad, Hafez, and the current president in their homes. I would just say the difference between the Latin American death squad and the Syrian death squad, as far as I can see, is the following. The Latin American death squad was very carefully targeted. In other words, it was kidnapping and murder, and it was if you were a communist or if you were a trade unionist, then you were a prime target. But in the case of Syria, it's just killing. They told us, men, women, children. You could be a Sunni, you could be a Shiite, you could be an Alawite. You could be a Christian, you could be a Druze, you could be a Kurd. This didn't matter. So in other words, it's not the targeted, knock on the door in the dead of night and then you're kidnapped and you disappear. It's more, you're walking along the street at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you get killed by a sniper. So this, I think, is the reality of Homs.
You arrive as a situation, you arrive a scene where a half hour ago somebody got shot, and 30 minutes later people are crossing very normally the street. Me crossing the street, I've been feeling, basically, literally I've been feeling that somebody's aiming, the sniper's aiming on me, and it's up to him if he's gonna pull the trigger or not. I came to this junction and I realized that somebody wanted to cross the street with a huge bag of cigarettes. So I could hear the sniper shooting, and he wasn't able to cross the street, and the bag with the cigarettes was in the middle of the street. So it was again one of these very impressive scenes where people have been very happily and almost like a sport challenge to get the cigarette bags out from the sniper range. And they've been happy when they could.
We need to cross the street to buy bread and other food, but the snipers have surrounded this area. It's a huge danger.
And they started to throw the bread because they were not able to cross. So everything they needed on the other side, they throw it over the streets.
So it's blind terrorism, random killing, a kind of uncontrollable massacre of people. And let me just be specific about what I mean by this. If you read these crazy Western media, they will tell you that Homs is the great center of this rebellion here, the civil war in Syria, right? Well, when we got here with the delegation that I was with, we went right to Homs. We got, at least I did, within 24 hours after coming, we went to Homs. And not only did we go to Homs, we went to Zara. We went to the neighborhood that's supposedly the center of all agitation. And when you get there, what you see is, first of all, empty streets. And then eventually we saw 500 people in a public square, and they were agitating somehow, right? They were having a demonstration of some kind. So we were a little bit frightened, right? Because we thought, you know, these are people who, they're
armed or something like this.
Who knows? So we get down we leave our bus and go onto the street, and here are these people. And the number one issue for them is not what you think. It's mazout.
Yeah.
They're concerned about fuel oil.
Yeah.
And they're concerned about the fact it's getting cold and the winter is here and they need to heat their homes. And there's not enough fuel oil. And they have criticisms of the governor of the province, who we also met, who seemed like a good guy to me, but they say that he doesn't do enough to get the mazout. Now, as soon as you're talking about mazout, there are two things, right? One is that there are already economic sanctions by NATO. There's economic warfare that influences the availability.
The beginning of sanctions destroy different part of the economy. Of course, all the tourism is totally destroyed. But during the winter, you have no more fuel. There is also a problem with different imported goods. Mm-hmm. But I think this is now changing because there is a new agreement between Syria, Iran and China for that. So they try now to impose the Arabic sanctions, and it could be really a disaster for this country, but they discover very quickly that it will be also a disaster, an economic disaster for the others Arab countries around, so they have to stop these sanctions. So now Syria is able to resist a very long time to this pressure from NATO.
The other thing is, I've been told that various of these terrorists, of these death squads, they specifically target the trucks that carry fuel oil, mazout, and they try to hijack the trucks and take them to Turkey, where they can sell it at a better price.
And Lebanon also.
And Lebanon, wherever it is. So we got to see these people demonstrating. Now, the question then is, what was the political coloration? Well, it's pro-Assad, pro-Assad, pro-Assad.
Salam alaikum Syria. Long live free Syria. Long live beautiful Damascus.
I would guess at least half, maybe more in Syria, who support the government. Syrian Christians, Syrian Kurds, minority groups, Armenians, and the business community, and people in the big cities who want stability and calm.
The interesting thing was that their criticism of Assad was not that he was a tyrant or that he did too much, but that he was too soft, that he was too concerned about international public opinion. He was too concerned about having people abroad think that he was cracking down. These people were basically begging for a crackdown. They said, where's the Syrian army? And indeed, when you drive in, you think, well, if it's really a hot neighborhood, there'd be a tank at every corner, there'd be troops in the streets. No, there was not this stuff.
But since the 10 last years in the Middle East, the imperialistic system is pushing the division between the communities. And that's this idea to reshape the greater Middle East, dividing the people in different sects.
And it doesn't matter who you are, right? Whether you're man, woman, child, you can be a Ba'athist or a communist, that doesn't matter. They'll kill you anyway. You can be Christian, any kind, like Greek Orthodox, whatever it is, Melkite, Syrian. You can be Sunni, you can be a Druze, you can be a Kurd, you can be anything. And they'll kill you. So it's an equal opportunity killer. That is, I think, extremely dramatic proof that this story, I just saw one of the presenters on BBC saying, and of course, Homs is the center of this rebellion. Well, I've been there. I've been with people all around me, right? They couldn't wait to tell their stories. And then you ask them, what should happen? What is the answer to this? What are you demanding? And they say, we want the Syrian army to come in large numbers. We want more soldiers here. What should they do? They want the soldiers to climb up on the roofs of the houses and stay there and patrol and make sure that the snipers can't come and start killing people. And that's what...
Since the days of the Bush administration, U.S. Congress has been funding subversion in Syria to overthrow the government. And now that movement has accelerated because before there was caution, but wait a minute, who's going to take over? It's the Muslim Brotherhood's going to take over if we overthrow the government. Now we don't care. It's just a way to get the Iranians. Let's bomb those Iranians.
Well, and then as you say, all of this is really done with Iran in mind. Is that because they just figure if they can get the Assad regime to fall and Syria to come apart, that it'll provoke enough of a reaction out of the Iranians that they can finally, maneuver them into firing the first shot, supposedly, in the next war?
There's that. There's the idea that Iran will be seriously weakened by the loss of Syria, the most important ally. Hezbollah will be cut off. The Israelis will be delighted. So the Palestinians will be left without Syrian support or a Syrian base. So it would be seen as a big victory by Washington.
The basic situation is that there's a hysterical, demagogic public relations campaign by NATO intelligence, the CIA, Mossad, MI6, DGSR, and other NATO forces against Syria. And this is a destabilization. The goal is to overthrow the government and to smash the existing political arrangements, to smash the state. And their thesis is that there's a civil war in Syria, that there's a mass political movement of most of the population against President Assad and against the Ba'ath Party, that the Syrian army, under the orders of the Ba'ath Party and Assad, have responded to this by killing 3,000, 4,000 people. And the striking thing is that when you get here, you see that this is a complete fiction. It is a fantastic invention. This is not a civil war. There's no civil war. There's no mass killing of civilians by the army. Had a divergence of reality and propaganda. It's really a political analysis that has no roots on this planet, maybe some other planet, but not this one. the reality that you find is absolutely the opposite in the most striking way, I think, in recent years anywhere in the world. It's a complete negation.
No Obama!
Something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there. Yeah, that's right. Telling me I got to beware. Each time we stop, children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Thought of that millennium just be killing them. That's scary, like lies buried in a library. When did the state pen correct anything? When piles of us still be catching the bus. When stacks of cats packing laundry bags pay the preachers back.